Hi, my name is Vanessa, a GetSetUp guide, and we're going to be making a dairy-free alternative pasta that's going to be easy and delicious. Be sure to jump into the chat with your thoughts and provide feedback. All right, so let's get started cooking. All right, so this is going to be an easy recipe. I'm going to just turn on my burner to kind of a medium-high heat to cook the pasta. And to my water, I'm going to add in some salt. So you always want to salt your pasta water really liberally. And I'm going to get that kind of like to a boiling temperature. So the pasta I'm using today is full of fiber. It's really going to keep you nice and full. And it also has a high protein content. So per serving on 2 ounces of this is about 10 grams of protein. So you're getting that fiber and the protein added to this particular pasta. So I'm going to let this get to a boil. And I think this is pretty good. And this is kind of like you want it to be kind of al dente. I'm going to add that. This is about a pound of pasta, 16 ounces. And it's going to give this a quick stir. So we're going to do a little bit of onion. This is a very big onion, so I'm going to just probably use half of this. So you want this kind of like a small chopper dice, okay? And I'm going to take that top skin off. And then I've got my other skillet here that's been preheated on a medium heat, okay? And I'm just going to do a small chop. So we're going to be using olive oil today to saute our onions. Olive oil is a really good, healthy fat to have on hand all the time. And it also has a lot of great flavor to it. If you're not fond of a lot of onions, you can kind of reduce that. Some people may or may not like so many onions, but I think it's really good to put in dishes, okay? And then I'm also going to use 3 cloves of garlic, okay? So I'm going to put a little oil into my pan, about 2 tablespoons. And then I'm going to add my onions. And then we're going to let these kind of soften. I'm going to turn my temperature down just a bit. And we're going to saute this so it's kind of softened. Okay. Now, while this is cooking, I am going to mince the garlic up. So I got about 3 cloves here. If you like more garlic, go ahead and do it. But I think 3 cloves is plenty. But garlic has like a lot of good flavor to it. Oops. All right. So by just smashing it, the skin will come off a little bit better for you. All right. So there goes the garlic. 3 cloves is good. And I'm going to just do a cross chop on this, kind of slicing it. And then doing a cross chop on it to kind of break it down for us. And you just kind of gather your garlic back together. Until you get kind of like a fine mince here. You don't want big chunks of garlic in your dish. It's going to keep an eye on the onions. They're still nice and soft. They're becoming almost translucent. That means just kind of clear looking. I'm going to turn the temperature up just a bit. Okay. Almost there with the garlic. I mean, there's products out there where you can use like minced garlic in the jar, but I think fresh is best. Okay. Now I'm going to add that to the pan. Now you might be asking, why am I adding the garlic after the onion? It's because sometimes during the cooking process, the garlic can burn. So that's just why it's good to start off with the onion first so that that doesn't have a chance to occur. And right off the back, you smell that garlic. It's doing really good. Doesn't take long. And let me just stir my pasta real quick. All right. So you can see this pasta looks like, you know, like regular pasta. It actually tastes like it too, but this is going to be more filling than traditional pasta. Okay. So now we're going to add in, we've got our garlic and our onion going in here, and then we're going to add our tomatoes. So I've got about a pint of grape tomatoes that's been sliced in half. I'm going to add that here. And we're going to let this cook for like 3 to 5 minutes until it kind of softens for us. Okay. All right, we're going to add a little bit of salt and pepper to this. So this is to taste, really. So you kind of want to taste your food as you go along, but we'll see how that goes. Okay, 3 to 5 minutes on that. Checking on my pasta. It looked like it cooled down quite a bit. I'm going to turn this burner up a little bit. Keep my eye on it. So let's talk about some of the dairy-free alternatives that are out there. So we're going to be using soy milk. And soy milk has about, comparable to regular milk, has about 8 grams of protein that is that's in soy milk. So that's one of the better choices to get that protein content. But there's also other dairy-free alternatives if you have issues with, you know, dairy. I mean, if you have lactose intolerance, these are nice alternatives. So you have the soy milk, you have almond milk, you have hemp milk. There's so many different ones out there. So they're going to all depend on, you know, which brand that you get. So, but soy milk has kind of the higher content when it comes to the protein part of it. One of the things you also want to check when you're using, you know, looking for a dairy-free alternative is to make sure that you don't have sugar added to it. So you want to make sure that you're checking the labels that it doesn't have added sugar to it. So that's very important when you're looking for a dairy-free alternative that's kind of like no added sugar to it, because you don't want your dish to be sweet. Okay. All right. So stirring this up real quick. The pasta's looking good. Our tomatoes are looking good. Okay. And then we're going to add our vegetable broth. So we're going to be using a vegetable broth here, keeping this kind of vegetarian-like. So it's going to be 2.5 cups of vegetable broth. So I'm going to use a liquid measuring cup here. And you want to keep it on a flat surface so that you're really like measuring it to the right way here. Okay, so there's our 2.5 cups of veggie broth. Add it. And then I'm going to add in 2.5 cups of my dairy-free milk. We're going to be using the soy milk that I talked about. Oops. There we go. And I'm going to add that to it. I'm going to bring the temperature back up. until this comes to like a simmer again. Okay. So to give this a little bit of help to bring it back to a simmer, I'm going to just put the lid on this here. If I can find the right one here. There we go. So I'm going to bring that temperature up till it brings to a simmer there. Okay, so we've got it. So just to recap, we did the onion first, and we sauteed that for a few minutes just to soften it up. And then we added our fresh minced garlic. And then we added a little bit of salt and pepper. And then we did our veggie broth, 2.5 cups, and then also equal amount of the 2.5 cups with the soy milk. And that's going to come up to a temperature. I'm going to just check on this pasta again, just to make sure that I'm not overcooking it. It's going to give it a quick taste. Believe it or not, that is cooked. And I am going to drain this. Okay, turn that off. There we go. So there's our pasta. I just want to show everyone this here. So this pasta, like I said, it looks just like regular pasta. It's very filling. Great alternative for adding protein and fiber, and it's just delicious. All right, so that is that. I'm going to clean up my area a little bit. Let's see if I can get my temperature going up a little bit more. There we go. Okay, so the combination of the veggie broth with the soy milk is going to kind of give you that little bit of savoriness from the broth and then creaminess from the soy milk, which will be good. Now, let's talk about some of the other ingredients that we're supposed to have put in here. It's going to be a little bit of tomato paste that's supposed to be in here. So I'm going to add a little bit, 2 tablespoons of tomato paste that's going to be added to this. So that really should have been added with the, after the tomatoes were added. So not to worry, we can still put it in there. So 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. I'll give this a stir just to kind of get it in here. All right. And that should melt right in there. There we go. If you wanted to add some other ingredients, you could add oregano if you wanted to, a little bit more herbiness to it. You could totally do that. And turn that back on. And then I'm going to talk about the other ingredients that's going to be put in here. So we're going to be adding nutritional yeast, which has a lot of B vitamins. It's high in protein. 2 tablespoons will give you about 5 grams of complete protein. And this is what is used to kind of give it a cheese flavor to it. So nutritional yeast is really, really good. And so you can find this like in your health food aisle. It's pretty common these days to find that in your grocery stores. And it's kind of really great as an alternative for anything that you want to taste like cheese, but you're also getting some health benefits from that. And so, we're adding some nice alternative proteins to this without actually using animal protein. And so that's going to be added to this pasta dish also. And then for some healthy green vegetables, we're going to be using some baby spinach that's going to be added towards the end. And spinach doesn't take that long to cook, so it will be added towards the end till it's like it's just wilted. Okay. So it looks like this is coming up to temperature. So I put the lid on this just to kind of help this along. And this will be doing good in a minute. I think it's coming up to temperature. I'm seeing some action here. Okay. Just going to give this a stir. All right. It's looking good. So I talked about soy milk. So like I said, there's the other alternatives like There's hemp milk, which is kind of popular. There's rice milk. And those are great for all other alternatives when it comes to dairy free. And although they don't have the protein content like soy, they're still good alternatives for those who, you know, may prefer to go that route of not having dairy. So there's plenty of different brands out there. Just be mindful of the sugar content of what's been added to your plant-based milk. Okay, well, this is coming along pretty good. I'm going to give this a quick taste just to see where we're at salt-wise. Okay. Definitely need salt. And so that's all going to be determined by, like, if you're using a reduced sodium broth or one that's higher. So you'll have to use more or less depending on what you're using. So I'm using sea salt. You could use Himalayan, regular salt, whatever you desire. Let me put a little black pepper in here. Okay. So that's looking good. And so we're going to just let this continue to cook for about 10 minutes. Okay, so our pasta is cooked. We've had our mixture with the broth and the soy milk has cooked for about 10 minutes. But to really tighten this up, so it's going to depend on what type of dairy-free milk you're using. So one quick fix to make it thicker and really creamy texture, we're going to do a slurry. And basically that is just cornstarch mixed with liquid. I'm going to take a little bit of our veggie broth and mix this with 5 tablespoons of cornstarch. Now, for 1 cup of liquid, you want to use like 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, and that will give you kind of a thicker enough texture to do what we're doing here. So I'm just going to add a little bit of broth here just to thicken it up, and then just stir with my spoon. Now, what you don't want to do is add hot broth to your original slurry, okay? I'm going to just add just a little bit more so that this loosens up for me. But one thing you want to make sure is that your liquid is simmering so that that temperature is high enough to activate this slurry and get this to a thicker consistency. So I'm just stirring this up. All right, so here we have the slurry. And if you let a slurry sit at room temperature for a while, it will kind of sink to the bottom. You just want to make sure that you just stir that up before you add it to it. So I'm going to turn my temperature up a little bit more, get this cranking. And I'm going to add in this slurry. And I'm going to stir at the same time. And you'll immediately feel this thicken. Okay, and I'm making a mess, but it's getting thicker by the moment, as you can see, just right before your eyes. And that's looking pretty good. And you might can hold back a little bit on that too. So I'm going to hold back a little bit of that slurry. And you can see that tightened up really good for us. So to finish this dish off, I'm going to add in the nutritional yeast. I'm going to do about 1/3 cup to give it kind of like a cheesy flavor to it. And like I said, nutritional yeast is really good for you. It's got a lot of B vitamins in it, high in fiber, protein. And just sprinkle that in. Okay. And I'm just going to make sure all this is incorporated for us. All right, that's looking good. And then I'm going to hit it up with our baby spinach, so about 5 ounces. And this looks like maybe 4 cups total if you're doing it that way. And the reason why we're adding the spinach at the end, we don't want to overcook our spinach. It's just kind of heating it through and kind of keeping some of those nutrients intact. And I'm just going to kind of fold this in. And it looks like a lot initially, but once it kind of cooks into the sauce, it's going to kind of really melt down for us. Okay. All right, so that's looking good. And then I'm going to add our cooked pasta to it. One got away from me. Okay. I can actually turn this off right now. And now you're just kind of combining all this together. And we're just kind of folding it over with the sauce. And what I like about baby spinach, there's no prep with that. You're just kind of, no chopping with that. So that makes it very easy for us. One less thing to do in the kitchen. Now, because I added the pasta had salted water, but I'm going to check my seasonings just to make sure that there's enough salt in here, enough pepper, and we'll be good to go. So always taste as you go. Okay, I'm going to give this a quick taste. That's so good with the nutritional yeast. I'm going to add a little bit more sea salt and a little bit more black pepper. And I'm going to give this a quick stir. And here we have our completed dairy-free alternative pasta that is easy and delicious to make. It tastes, I should say, but it's easy to make also, as you can see, and didn't take a lot of ingredients. So that is your pasta. I hope you enjoyed watching this recipe, and I hope you make it at home. Thanks for attending this class. Be sure to check out the other classes and join me in other GetSetUp guides in another session soon.